It's been months since Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari promised to end insecurity and return order and stability in the country by the end of December 2022. Expectations have been high on how this will be achieved by service chiefs and security forces. However, terrorism in the form of banditry, killings, and insurgency by separatist groups have continued to claim uncountable lives in different parts of the country.
The recent train attack in Benin City, Edo State, south of Nigeria, has brought about fears and worries over the certainty of ending insecurity in the country, even as one more victim was released yesterday. The kidnappers have made demands of up to 620 million naira for the release of the victims. In this report by our correspondent, Adekoya, the residents are seen stating that the surveillance cameras cannot be depended on as they were not working.
Ekeken community in Igweben local government area of Edo State. The quietness pervading the atmosphere, a fallout from the recent kidnap of over 30 train passengers waiting to board the train from Edo to Delta State. The attack on waiting passengers at this train station is the first of its kind and has come as a shock to many.
There are no way we would have expected that a thing like this would ever happen. There was nothing that, if there was, a lot of measures would have been taken. There was no way anybody would have known that people were going to stray from somewhere. These are obviously not issues of our people. I'm not making case for them, but for FNIIS, they are obviously not issues of these local governments.
While security operatives were seen on ground, their presence has been very visible as a manhunt for the kidnappers is currently ongoing. The Edo State Deputy Governor, who was seen on ground, confirmed 2 victims abandoned by the kidnappers have already been rescued, and security operatives are currently on the heels of the abductors.
As at yesterday, the CP and all the security chief, the vigilante, the hunters have all been deployed, and we are already doing something. There are certain things I cannot tell you now, but what is key is that Edo will be too hot for anybody to attempt to do what they tried to do yesterday.
Some of the residents of the community say much more should be done to effect the rescue of those kidnapped and urged government for security guarantees going into the future.
If you see what is happening here now, you see that there is more that needed to be done even before now. All these bushes also will be taken back 200 or 500 meters away from the premises of this train station. And I think this urgently has to be done. They have to bring the security cameras, let the security cameras be working, because what I've discovered now is that the security cameras, as it were not functioning. So these are ways and measures to really put the security aback from this place.
The painful thing is there are cameras all here, but which we all know they mostly don't work, from what I heard. And even when they work, there's no light. So it's so sad. Security operatives are in the forest right now trying to comb this bush, looking for some of these people. But again, a better job could have been done if we had a chopper, a helicopter, using a bird's eye view. I mean, how far could these people have gone with such large number of people?
The Deputy Governor assured that the state will do all it can to avert a reoccurrence.
We have a well-thought-out security architecture here. So cannot be a base for terrorists or kidnapper, whatever they call themselves. So we don't want to say too much now, but one thing is that we are relocated to this place, and by the grace of God, until we get resolved, we are not living here.
With Nigerians still reeling from the Abuja-Kaduna train attack, which occurred in 2022 and led to a halt of train operations for 5 months in Nigeria's north-central region, many will be hoping that a lasting solution can be done to serve as a deterrence to criminal elements in the future.
Now let's dwell a little on Nigeria's security challenges, which have gotten a lot of citizens talking, despite the presidential promise, which has come many times to put an end to the insecurity challenges in the country. Joining us this morning is security expert Onyekachi Adekoya. He is, of course, Managing Director, PR24 Risk Management Consulting. Good morning, Mr. Adekoya. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me, and good morning to the viewers.
All right. We saw another release of one of the kidnapped victims, from the Edo train attack, making a total of 7 now. In the report we just watched, of course, residents are saying that technology, cameras, and whatnot are not functional. Do you, first of all, think that we have learned anything from the past train attack, the Abuja-Kaduna train attack? The president has made numerous promises, given numerous orders that don't seem to be getting anywhere. Do you think we learned anything from the Abuja-Kaduna train attack? And why do we keep mentioning cameras as an answer to, train attacks in Nigeria?
Yeah, first part of the question is, did we learn anything? I doubt that we ever learn seriously. Maybe we learn some things, but we don't learn all that we should learn. Also bearing in mind our set constraints. So it's difficult to gauge what was learned or not. But generally, we do pay a lot of lip service to issues of protection of life and property. Understandably also, we have a lot of constraints. But I think what constrains us the most is how we are set up as a people and our constitution. Maybe we also then have a bit of a social orientation problem. So what we have learned or not learned is difficult to assess because there's a lot of hogwash. And there's a lot of show of force post-incident, and that happens every time. And we have assessed that this will happen over and over again. We are looking at an outward manifestation of a deeper problem within the Nigerian railway service. There are plenty issues, really. And you're talking about the CCTV. What about signaling? What about signaling? We have locomotives, we don't have operational visibility over them. The control rooms are almost non-existent. Where they are even existing, they are very badly operated. You have a CP railway police who cannot work any magic because security requires a lot of logistics. It requires logistics personnel, it requires motivation for the people. But we all pay lip service to the police and expect them to do a lot. So in terms of what the president has done, yes, he's made a lot of promise, and fairly he has done, admittedly, the best that he can do given the constraints that we have. The major issues at the time he was running was Boko Haram. The Boko Haram has been lightly decimated. So from the perspective of the core issues there, life has returned back to the Northeast. The Deeper Life Christian Church had, the Redeemed Church had an open air crusade in Maiduguri sometime last year. So farmers are going back. Life is a bit better in the Northeast. The Northwest has become another front, and the North Central is becoming a place of interest also. So in terms of the promise to fight Boko Haram, yes, he's done that. Perhaps with some think of luck also, given the infighting between Boko Haram and ISWAP. And one thing led to another, and they basically took themselves out. And the conditions of ground are no longer very favorable. And that's why you're seeing a number of people surrendering. At the last count, over 70,000 people have surrendered. Yeah, so two different things. Boko Haram, yes, dealt with. But the issue of insecurity is very, very, very worrying.
All right.
Because there's no time you look at the crime statistics in Nigeria. There's nowhere. Kidnapping in the mosque, in the church, on the road, in the farm, home invasions are up. It's a big mess, if you ask me.
All right, now let's circle back to the conversation about insecurity, especially looking at the rail system. You've mentioned signaling. You've mentioned security being a challenge as well in terms of mobilizing security personnel in the event of an attack. Now, we saw this happen last year on the 28th of March, where people were kidnapped, and we didn't have the last person return until I think October. And we've had another incident this year, 2023, just to start the year, unfortunately. Is this maybe a time to reconsider how rail transport is being done or operated in the country? And do you foresee that this might be a new subject of attack for insurgents or bandits or whichever we choose to call them? Is this something that we might be seeing more of in the coming months?
Yeah, I mean, very fantastic question. Where we did an analysis on election preparedness and looked at the outlook for crime, we had realized that last year that we had not reached the peak period of crime. And we then estimated that crime would usually peak during an election cycle between January and February, and then peter off in March. So the projections are just right in terms of the state of insecurity. Now, I want to cycle back to the question on CCTV, then I come back to the issue of reviewing the railway system, because I do think we should just go ahead and privatize the railway system. Because if you happen to visit the Nigerian railway complex, you will see the rot and the decay in it. In terms of signaling equipment, you go there and see for yourself. There are tons of equipment that are still in containers because you don't run locomotives and don't have operational visibility of what's moving where, who is moving where. You know, certain things we don't even want to begin to talk about on national TV. So the seriousness is still being run as a ministry arm, not even a government agency or whatever it is. You know, they still have this lackadaisical approach to issues. People just feel like they are working there, they have a sense of entitlement, and it's all just badly run, I would say, badly run. I had the opportunity to visit one of their facilities here in Lagos. I mean, the one at Edo it's a very big complex. It's a town within a town, but very badly run, not professionally run. You've seen comments by the NRC MD, who's making conflicting statements. He said 14 people were kidnapped. Some other person said 32. There's CCTV. What we do in Nigeria is that when we are rolling out this project, we will do the consulting engineering design because the people want to loan you money, want to be sure that you use the money for the right thing. So everything that should be in place is put in place on paper. You know, at the point of contract negotiation and execution, it becomes another kettle of fish. So there's a lot of rot and decay, a lot of rot and decay in the Nigerian railway service.
All right.
You know, and that's the deeper seated problem. So on the issue of CCTV and technology, that's our case in Nigeria. They tell you need CCTV, you go and buy something, you don't know what you have bought, it doesn't have in-country support, you can't maintain, you can't service. You put CCTV, you've not put a backup power system for it. You don't even review the images. You don't know what you are looking out for. You know, so there's a whole lot of problem. So please go ahead, sir.
Obviously, you know, we're still, you know, I would say, you know, we're still very, very. The demand for, I wouldn't say perfection, but you know, the demands that Nigerians have of their government, you know, is still very, very poor, and that's why, you know, they give you a train, you know, just to satisfy the urge for a train or the one for a train, you know, manage this one, you know, but the main things that, you know, people should still question, you know, still don't exist. But I want to ask, the president, of course, you know, in his, in Adamawa yesterday, I believe, still made mention of the APC taking care of Nigeria's security challenges, you know, before the end of the tenure, which doesn't seem very likely because they're going to be out of office in a few weeks. What do you think the next government needs to put in place or needs to have in mind? Whoever takes over from the current administration, what should they have in mind with regards to tackling Nigeria's security challenges?
Yeah, you know, the thing about our politicians is that they know how to pay people to do research and say the right things. So they are saying the right things already. They are talking about restructuring of our policing structure, which just resolves into state police. And then taking back powers back to the states, because we've borrowed the Constitution of the United States as the model for our own kind of constitution. The states can make laws, they can adjudicate, but they cannot enforce their laws. Barring all the conversations around the governors using the state police for their political gains. Is the federal government, can the federal government not also be accused of the same thing? What we need to focus on now is life and property. Edo State, you must give them kudos. And just to say and to be fair, You can do all that you can do and still have one or two attacks. That's happened in even in developed countries, but it's when there's an attack, what is response, what do you do, how do you take it forward, and all that. So I think that the things that needs to begin to happen is firstly, number one, the NSA. Let's start from the NSA. The next NSA for Nigeria should be a civilian, should not be a retired military person, because we've had that for too long, and it's actually an aberration. The NSA should be civil rule, because under a democracy, there's a doctrine of civil rule. Every agency of force, 29 of them, should be coordinated by a policy body. It should be a policy-first approach, not the military is not their entitlement to be NSA. And we also make this mistake to say that when you want to have conversations about security, it must be X this, X that, X. No, the military is not trained for civil approach. And within a civil context, within the policy environment, there's very little they can do. That's why you have institutes of the study of war. You have centers for policy and strategic studies. There are bodies that, do better under civilian rule. And when you have a rather scholarly approach to some of the issues, not a person that will resolve to his constituency and then will continue with the same parochial setup we've had since independence. So once you start with that, that's good. And you get the right person for there. That person can give the president the right kind of advice, and that can then percolate down to the states, and then our national security posture can be fine. Because other than that, the 2019 national security strategy that we have talks about human security. So I don't think the NSA himself knows what he wrote or what was written for him in that document. Because if you talk about human security, you are talking about the Nigerian person, his aspiration, his right to safety, his right to a good job, basic amenities. Human security works with a different set of assumptions when it comes to governance. So you can see the difference between the policy speak and what is happening on the ground. It's just because we just do a lot of copy and paste. And a man cannot give what he doesn't have. So let's disassociate ourselves from that old parochial order, make progress there, go to state police, and then all issues to security is local. So once you then go local, you can take a local approach. You talk about community policing, vigilante. The people came with AK-47. The vigilante carried guns. Yes, they act as a force multiplier to the police. But, when you have issues on the ground, you match force with force. So we have a number of things to do generally, but I'll just say that those are the first things to start from, because once you start from the head and then you begin to come down, that's good. And I think the other thing we must do is that the legislators, the governors must now begin to go for training in security. It's a very important thing. So get them to know, because some governors don't know genuinely. They rely on what they are told, as a governor. And you don't know, you don't know.
Right.
So give them a basic, small basic crash course in security. And make them become better security officers.
There's so much that needs to be done as we prepare to welcome in or usher in a new administration, and we hope that the new administration is listening and taking notes, and that insecurity can one day become a thing of the past in Nigeria. Thank you very much, Onyekachi Adekoya, for your time this morning. Do enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.